Welcome back, everybody. I'm Del with Healing Frequencies Music, and we are on to our number 2 in the top 10 list of most commonly asked questions of me. And this one is a doozer because I get asked this one a lot, which is probably why it's number 2 on the list and not number 10. And the question is A440 harmful? Well, let's find out. Share my screen, do the usual. Get the cute little PowerPoint slides coming up because I love the visuals of being able to see and hear at the same time. You know, I'm a teacher. You got to hit as many learning styles as possible. Number 1, intent rules. That is the most important thing. Intention, intention, intention. This goes back to the placebo effect. If you don't know what the placebo effect is, go look it up. Anything is harmful if that's your intent. I'm going to use a knife as an example. I was in the kitchen this morning, cutting up food, having a jolly good time. Well, someone who wants to do something dumb could take that same knife and use it for we'll just say nefarious purpose. Does that mean the knife itself is bad? No, it was the intention of the user of the knife. A440, I'm going to propose, well, you'll see here in a second. There's a myth saying that Hitler changed our pitch to be harmful. That myth is debunked based on historical evidence. And I talk about that in, which one do I talk about that? I think it's in number 5. I mention it in number 5, in question number 5. We'll just leave that. I've got plenty of articles on the website to talk about that and why that myth is debunked. There's also a myth saying that Rockefeller had something to do with changing pitch in 1953. Thank myth. Oh, well, there should not be it should be that myth. I'm like reading my words. I should have proofread a little better. That myth is debunked based on historical evidence. I said in one of the previous videos that the standard of 440 was already being used when the ISO, the International Standards Organization, I think that's what it's called. They're called the ISO. They're the ones in 1939 who set the concert pitch to A440. And as I said in the last video, it had more to do with finding a happy medium between the highs in some countries and the lows in others, because we needed a standard. Rockefeller wasn't even a thought in the wind by the time America was using 440. As I said in another video, I've got a saxophone that was built in the 1905 that's in the 440 concert pitch. Britain was using 439 until 1939. So we'll leave that one. I've been a classical musician my entire life where everything is performed in 440. Do I look like there's anything wrong with me? Does it look like A440 harmed me? I don't think so. Until 1939, the world had a variety of different tunings, which I've said that just a minute ago. Prior to the mid 1800s, there was no way to measure pitch. When Mr. Hertz came by, all of a sudden we had a way to measure the difference between 440, 444, 432, 456. The only way we know those existed was because of tuning forks and instruments. I could go to the Smithsonian Museum and play any of the clarinets that are in that museum, and they're all going to be in a different concert pitch, especially if they're from Europe. Because they're, Europe is obviously a older country than America. And then we're going to go into what's the difference between concert pitch and temperament in the next one. But in that point, I'm just going to stop sharing screen. And so the whole point about the harmfulness of A440 is if you believe it's harmful, then it's going to be harmful. But I choose to not let 440 be harmful? I have a beautiful grand piano that is a professional model piano that I love to sit down and just play this piano. It plays in A440, and I have no problems doing that. My clarinet plays in A440. Now I can squeeze up to A444, which I did in the 528 album by putting a shorter barrel on it. And you're going to change pitch anyway, depending on whether it's hot or cold or there's high or low humidity in. So even if you're playing in 440, you're never going to stay there. Unless you're a keyboard player, then, you're relegated to staying there because you can't stop and retune your instrument. Fretted instruments are the same way, guitars, lutes, because, they got frets and they determine, and of course you have to stop and, retune because strings will get out of tune, but wind and brass and violin, cello, viola, and bass players, they can make adjustments all along the way. And so I personally don't see a problem with A440. And if someone has told you that it is, then I would highly recommend that you find some A440 music that you like and just say, I like this music. This music is good. It feels good to me. I mean, more than likely, you probably don't even know the difference. I was at a conference once where the leader asked the band secretly to play the next set in 432. And I just happened to be standing there when he asked him to do it. And then then the band played. And then the guy who was speaking got up afterwards and said, did you notice any difference in the music? And everyone's going, what? I think he had him change it to A444, not 432. He wanted them to change it to A444. And the difference between 440 to 444 is so small. And everyone's like, well, yeah. And then he goes, well, the band tuned, and the leader of the band's going, and she's trying to stop him. And I'm sitting in the back of the room laughing. And he goes, never mind. Well, and then you could hear him talking to the band leader again. So I knew that the next time they were going to do it. And he got up and he goes, did you notice the difference in the band? And they're all looking at each other like, what? And I was literally watching the look on people's faces. Then he told them that the band had tuned to A444 and that was better music. And then when he said that, notice he had to say it first. Then everybody in the crowd said, oh, yeah, that felt better. But before, they would not have known any difference until he said something. And so they believed what this man said rather than just going with the flow. Everybody was just having a great time in both of them, no matter what concert pitch they were used. So I use that as an example. Most of the time, we're not going to know the difference between 440 and 444 anyway. Because if you are in an orchestra and you're sitting under all those lights on stage, chances are by the end of the performance, you're no longer going to be in 440. You're going to be somewhere in the 442 range. And I know that for a fact as a clarinet player. Because you'll pull out a tuner later on and like, oh my gosh, I went really sharp. So let's get over this thing that A440 is harmful. Enjoy the music that feels good to you, no matter what concert pitch it's in. So those are my parting words on this video, and we will end this series with the next one where I talk about concert pitch and temperament. Until then, see you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile.